Good morning, class. My name is Farah Hasan and I am your ECL teacher. Today we're going to be learning something interesting today. First we're going to learn we've learned previously about past tense continuous and we've learned about present tense continuous. Now we're going to learn how to use them together. Can any one of you tell me what's a conjunction? A conjunction are words that join two sentences together. Let me show you some examples. On the slide you have and, because, when, not, but, and nor. I want to show you guys a fun video that you can listen to so that you can get a better understanding. Hold on a second.
Welcome to this episode of Using the Conjunction, and today we're going to be talking about the conjunction when. The conjunction when is used with two actions, and we're going to show those actions with purple and green boxes. Purpose 1 is to show cause and effect. So if we have the example, it was sunny outside, which is our cause, which might lead to I went to the park. To show that in writing, we actually have to switch the effect and the cause. So I went to the park when it was sunny outside. And the when goes in the middle. So it's effect, when, cause. So our full sentence would be, I went to the park when it was sunny outside. The next purpose of the conjunction when is to show an action being interrupted by another action. Let's take the action, I was listening to music. This is a continuous action. It wasn't just listen to music once. It was happening over a certain amount of time. Then all of a sudden, me listening to music was interrupted when the phone rang. To show the sentence form of this, or when we would use when, we put it in the middle. So I was listening to music when the phone rang. The verbs in this sentence, was listening and rang, are in two different forms. The first verb, to show that that action was happening continuously, we use past progressive, or was verbing, was listening. But our second verb stays in the regular past tense form. And in this case, it is an irregular rang. Purpose 3, to show an action at a certain time or age. And first we're going to talk about age. So I wanted to be a mermaid. And that was when I was 8 years old. So we would again put the when in the middle, and our full sentence would be, I wanted to be a mermaid when I was 8 years old. Now we can also talk about a certain time. So it's not necessarily a specific age. So the action is I still wanted to be a mermaid, but now it's a certain time, and it was in elementary school. Again, we put the when in the middle. So our full sentence would be, I wanted to be a mermaid when I was in elementary school. So we've been talking about using when as a conjunction in the middle of a sentence, but we can also switch our actions and move when to the beginning of a sentence. When we do this, we need to make sure that we have a comma after our first subordinating clause. So after our first action. So let's take a look at our previous sentences and how we can switch those to have the subordinating clause at the beginning of a sentence. So our first sentence, I went to the park when it was sunny outside. I would actually switch my cause and effect back to the original order. And I would stick when in the beginning, make sure I have that comma after that first clause, and a period at the end. So my sentence would look like this. When it was sunny outside, comma, I went to the park. For purpose 2, to show an action being interrupted by another action, we'll use the same example. I was listening to music when the phone rang. In this case, I was listening to music. The interrupting action will be moved to the beginning of the sentence. So we will say, when the phone rang, comma, I was listening to music. And this is what our sentence would look like written out. For our sentence, we still want to use the past progressive tense, I was listening, to show that continuous action that was interrupted when the phone rang. For our purpose 3, to show an action at a certain time or age, I wanted to be a mermaid when I was 8 years old. We would move that age to the beginning of the sentence. So we would have when I was 8 years old, comma, I wanted to be a mermaid. All right, to recap what we have learned, there are 3 purposes to using the conjunction when. Purpose 1 is to show cause and effect. Purpose 2 is to show an action being interrupted by another action. And purpose 3 to show an action at a certain time or age. When we're using the conjunction when, there could be 2 ways to write the sentence. The first way is when in the middle of your actions. The second way is to move that clause or that second action all the way to the beginning of the sentence. But when you do that, you need to use a comma after when's clause. For our purpose 1, to show cause and effect, we had I went to the park when it was sunny outside. To move that to the beginning, we would say when it was sunny outside, comma, I went to the park. To show an action being interrupted, we use the sentence, I was listening to music when the phone rang. And our other form would move that last clause to the beginning, when the phone rang, comma, I was listening to music. And finally, purpose 3, to show an action at a certain time or age. I wanted to be a mermaid when I was 8 years old. To form our second sentence, we move that last clause to the beginning of the sentence, when I was 8 years old, comma, I wanted to be a mermaid. So thank you for listening to this episode of Using the Conjunction.
Thank you. That was quite interesting because you were able to see how 2 different sentences can get interrupted by the word when. So I like this video because it really explains how this can be done. I can give you another example like I went walking yesterday when a cat jumped in front of me. That is also another example of using when. Conjunctions can also be used such as and want. These have commas as well. Like you could see in the video, a comma was placed with when as well, only when it was swapped around. So you have to be a little bit careful with sentence construction. But it was very interesting how you can join 2 different events and make it more exciting. You can make your stories and how you sound, and with the conjunction when, you are explaining after something has happened, then what happens after that. So it's quite interesting how you can put these 2 together. Conjunctions are very important because you need them to make sense of what you are saying. Let me give you an example of the importance of conjunctions. Without conjunctions, 2 events wouldn't exist. So you need 2 events, and then the interruption is the conjunction, in this case, when.
Please, you know what? Today is a big day. Pirates is playing.
So you'll
No,
notice
I want to go to town and get it. I want to watch it.
here are some more examples just to help you understand a bit better. I'm going to read off these past continuous tenses using when, just to give you a bit of a more idea of what it is about.
Hey, my man, are going out.
I was watching TV when she called. When the phone rang, she was writing a letter.
No, you know what happening. Don't, if you are going, keep TV open.
While we were having the picnic, it started to rain.
Now I
What
want to
were
go
you
to my
doing when the earthquake started? I was listening to my iPod, so I didn't hear the fire alarm. These are very fun, exciting conjunctions. Does anyone know what's an adverb? An adverb adds to the verb. For example, walk. You change walk to make it into an adverb, you add an ly. So it becomes walking. Run becomes running. Jog becomes jogging. Quick becomes quickly. What else can you say? There are plenty more examples. I'm going to be reading these sentences with interrupted actions, and I'll give you a few examples of more adverbs. Let's read this worksheet and see if it can give you a better idea. My dad was, in bracket, cleans. What happens to clean? Then the kitchen when I came home. My dad was cleaning the kitchen when I came home. My mom was drive. What happens to the word drive? It becomes drove me to school when we saw an accident. My grandpa was watch becomes what? Watched the news when I arrived. My dad was, it can become cooking or cooked chicken nuggets when I last saw him. I was, play becomes played or playing hopscotch when my mom offered me juice. Write your own sentences in past continuous tense for all of these sentences. So I think you guys have a good idea of that. Does anyone know what collocations are? Collocations are a group or a set of words that are joined together to make sentences more exciting and more fun. Collocations are like the following are examples here: do, make, have, and take. Do you take? Do you like leftovers? Do you like cooking? Do you see the homework? Making a butter cheesecake, making or make a mistake, make a mess, even have a good time, have biscuits, take a break, take a rest. All these are examples of collocations. These are a bit tricky, but they help you make words that are joined together in groups in stories that make it interesting and fun. So we've learned about conjunctions, and now we're learning about collocations. These two things are very interesting because you'll find them both present in any passage that you read. I'm going to give you a few more examples of collocations, then we're going to go and read a fun story. Are you excited? I am. Let's start. Let's see what other examples of collocations that we have here. Okay, so the examples of collocations that we have here are like crystal clear, good enough, right now, all alone, all along, almost certainly, pretty well, neat and tidy, best ever, I'm sick and tired, good enough, quite enough, almost certainly, only just, plan ahead. Some of them you can hear in everyday language. So it's important to always listen to podcasts and be aware of the different type of collocations. A collocation is also like a situation where you have a juxtaposition. A juxtaposition is something where you've got two sentences that are used together to make sense of something that's happening. It's interesting because here they used adverbs and they use collocations, and it's interesting how, even though these are a bit tricky sentences, the more you listen to English words and podcasts and storybooks, it will help you get a better idea. As these are not exactly common sayings, or it's just something that you hear when you are familiar with the language over time. I don't expect you to know it right now, but with time you'll gradually get the hang of it. It is a little bit tricky here and there, but I believe you can do it because all collocations are like fun ways of saying things, like idioms. And okay, now I'm using fancy words, but these are things that people use to express themselves better. And it also is a lot of sayings that you'll hear with time. Let's read a comprehension together. We're going to read it 3 times. The first time is to skim through it just to get an idea of what it is. Then we're going to scan it so that we get a better understanding of it. Then we're going to read it again for a final scan and to read for meaning and understanding. Then you'll tell me how to answer the questions, and we're going to try forming questions for ourselves based on the comprehension. Okay, are you ready? Let's get started. It's going to be fun to see what the comprehension has left to offer. Each comprehension is different and has different morals and settings, so we'll just see what this is all about. Hold on, let me get the slide. Okay, so what does the comprehension say? Okay, I'm going to read it on the other slide and you guys can follow with me if you want. So this is a text with interrupted actions. Here we are reading the following. It says, yesterday Tim and Jake were having fun at Tim's house. Tim was riding his bike and Jake was rollerblading. Let's go to the park, Tim said. Okay, let's go, Jake said happily. They were in the street and Tim was riding his bike fast when a car appeared. It wasn't going fast, but it almost hit the boys. Tim was scared and fell off his bike. He sprained his ankle and he couldn't walk well. The driver got out of his car and helped the boys. You should be careful. You shouldn't rollerblade or ride your bike in the street. And you must always wear a helmet, the man said. The boys listened to the man carefully because he was right. They went home and decided to be more careful next time. Okay, that's an interesting story about Jake rollerblading. Rollerblading is a fun activity you do in your free time. It's when you go on skates and a bicycle and you go and see what happens. But it seems like they almost met up with an accident. Let's read it again to see if we understand what it's about. The first time we just read through it to just get an idea. But now we want to read it again so that we can see what it's about and also tell me if you can identify the conjunctions. Yesterday, Tim and Jake were having fun at Tim's house. Okay, one of the conjunctions there is and. Tim was riding his bike and Jake was rollerblading. Another and. Let's go to the park. Tim said, okay, let's go, Jake said happily. They were in the street and Tim was riding his bike fast when a car appeared. It wasn't going fast, but it almost hit the boys. But is another conjunction and it has a comma right next to it. Remember, but, want, and can have conjunctions. Are conjunctions that can have commas. It wasn't going fast, but it almost hit the boys. Tim was scared and fell off his bike. Again, and is a conjunction. He sprained his ankle and he couldn't walk well. To sprain your ankle is to get hurt in a particular way, and this made it difficult for him to now walk. The driver got out of his car and helped the boys. You should be careful. You shouldn't rollerblade or ride your bike in the street. And you must, that's another conjunction, and you must always wear a helmet. A helmet is a safety gear that you put in case of an accident, like what happened here. The man said, the boys listened to the man carefully because he was right. They went home and decided to be more careful next time. Okay, that's interesting. Let us read again so that we can finally understand the meaning of what the story is about, and we can also understand why this text is so important. Let's try reading it one more time. Let's see if it now finally makes sense and we are able to answer the questions. Let's start reading again. Yesterday, Tim and Jake were having fun at Tim's house. Tim was riding his bike and Jake was rollerblading. Let's go to the park, Tim said. Okay, let's go, Jake said happily. They were in the street and Tim was riding his bike fast when a car appeared. It wasn't going fast, but it almost hit the boys. Tim was scared and fell off his bike. He sprained his ankle and he couldn't walk well. The driver got out of his car and helped the boys. You should be careful. You shouldn't rollerblade or ride your bike in the street. And you must always wear a helmet, the man said. The boys listened to the man carefully because he was right. They went home and decided to be more careful next time. That's a fun and interesting story. Let's now read the questions and see if we can do them together. Hold on. Let's get there. Yeah. Jake was riding. Was it his bike or was he rollerblading? Tim wasn't riding his bike fast. Suddenly, a car hit or was hitting Tim and Jake. The driver wasn't going fast. Tim hurt his leg or his head. The boys listened to the man carefully or happily. Okay, so the first question, Jake was riding his bike or rollerblading. What was Jake doing? Jake was rollerblading. Good, that's correct. Tim was or wasn't riding his bike fast. Tim was riding his bike fast. Suddenly, a car was hitting Tim and Jake. Suddenly, a car hit Tim and Jake. Suddenly, a car. What is it, guys? Let's try and think. Suddenly, a car hit Tim and Jake. The driver was or wasn't going fast. The driver wasn't going fast. Yes. Tim hurt his leg or his head. Tim hurt his leg. Ankle is a part of your leg. The boys listened to the man carefully or happily. The boys listened to the man carefully. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a few questions based on the story. Okay, what you see here is that you need to understand the meaning of certain words. Like, for example, what is your leg? Your leg is a part of your body that is used for walking. Your leg can be made up of different parts. One of the parts is an ankle. What do we use our legs for? Walking? Yes, that's correct. When do we use our legs? When there's a car in front of us, do we go in front of a car when we are walking? No, we don't. Do you know why Tim or Jake's leg got hurt? Because his ankle. He sprained his ankle. So, did his ankle get hurt because he fell off? Yes. So, you need to understand different words, and you should build up a vocabulary bank for you to be able to remember the meaning of all these words. Like, we've learned what rollerblading is. We've learned what carefully is. Carefully is when you are cautious, when you are like a bit aware of your surroundings and how you are to be careful in a way that you do not get hurt. It's a way of protecting yourself. So it's important to learn the synonyms and to make a vocabulary bank for yourself based on this comprehension and many more comprehensions that you read, because it is not always straightforward and it can be a bit tricky at times. But I believe that with time you'll build up the knowledge and you'll get there. Everything is hard before it becomes easy. So even though it's a little bit challenging, I'm sure you will get it. So what do we do when we have a text? The 3 golden rules. Can you remember? The first one is we read to get the gist of information. The second time we read so that we can gather the information and understand a bit. The third time is so that we can understand, answer questions and read for meaning. It's important that whatever we read, we tend to understand ourselves. It is never straightforward, but it's always going to be interesting. You should challenge yourself by reading various different types of texts and different types of information. It is fun, it is exciting, and it is challenging. But with time, we'll get the hang of it. Do you guys want to try one more set of worksheet with the interrupted action? Yes, I think we should. And once we are done with that, we'll try a fun game, a crossword puzzle, where you guys can gather up in little groups, discuss what you think are the correct conjunctions, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, let us do a few more question practice so that you get a better understanding of what is expected of you. Hold on a second. Let me go bring the other slide so that we can discuss that as well. Okay, so this is similar to what we just did a while ago, but then there's another one on this side, which I think is very exciting. Right, let's try these questions. He was crossing the road when I, in brackets, see him. What happens to see in the past tense? He was crossing the road when I saw him. Correct. See becomes saw. The accident took place when she, in brackets, have a driving lesson. The accident took place when she had a driving lesson. When my father arrived home, my mother, in brackets, sleep. What happens to sleep in the past tense? Becomes slept. So the sentence becomes, when my father arrived home, my mother slept. Mary broke her leg when she, what happens to the word skate? Skate becomes skated in the past tense. Mary broke her leg when she skated. It was raining this morning when you, in brackets, get up. What is the past tense of get up? It was raining this morning when you got up. The phone rang when I, in brackets, do my homework. The phone rang when I did my homework. When you came in, I, in bracket, watch TV. What does watch become? Watch becomes watched. When you came in, I watched TV. These are all fun examples of how you use the word when and you mix it with past tense and you use the conjunction when with past tense. So it's interesting how you can change the sentences to make sense of what you are saying depending on which tense you are in. And we are now talking about past tense. And present tense, it can also sound like see becomes seeing. And sleep becomes sleeping. So it changes depending on your tense. If it is present tense, you add an ing. And if it is past tense, you add an ed. So depending on which tense they ask you, you must change the verbs accordingly. It is not always easy, but you'll get the hang of it. And if you have any questions, don't feel shy to ask. This is a safe place where you can ask as many questions as you want, and mistakes are part of learning. If you make a mistake, do not be frightened. It will help you learn more stuff. Let me show you one more video about conjunctions so that you can get more ideas of what it's about. Then we are going to proceed to the word search, and I'm sure you are all excited for that. And don't feel overwhelmed, you'll get it. Let us see another video. Hold on a second, let me go get the video. Alright, let's see if you like this video.
ESL Library. Conjunctions. What are conjunctions in English? Conjunctions are words that join two or more other words, phrases, or clauses together. For example, in the sentence, she likes apples and oranges, and is a conjunction that joins the words apples and oranges together. There are four common coordinating conjunctions in English that we use for different functions. We use and for addition, but for opposition, or for a choice, and so for a result. There are three common sentence patterns for conjunctions in English. The first pattern is word plus conjunction plus word. An example of this pattern is, he likes cats and dogs. The conjunction and joins the words cats and dogs. Note that the words that a conjunction joins must be the same part of speech. For example, conjunctions can join two or more nouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs. In the sentence, he likes cats and dogs are both nouns that are joined by the conjunction and. In the sentence, I usually study, read, or exercise after dinner, study, read, and exercise are verbs that are joined by the conjunction or. Note that we use commas for more than two items in a list. The second pattern is phrase plus conjunction plus phrase. A phrase contains two or more words, such as a preposition and a noun. An example of this pattern is, I jogged down the street and up the hill. The conjunction and joins the phrases down the street and up the hill, which are both phrases containing a preposition, an article, and a noun. The third pattern is clause plus conjunction plus clause. A clause contains a subject and a verb. An example of this pattern is, they went out for dinner, but they didn't order any dessert. The conjunction but joins the clauses, they went out for dinner, and they didn't order any dessert. Note that we often use a comma before the conjunction when it joins two clauses. Let's look at some more examples of conjunctions in sentences and questions. Our new house is yellow and white. He doesn't like baseball, basketball, or tennis. She has a lot of books, but no time to read them. I finished my homework, so I'm going to the party. Do you want to go to the movies tonight? Or should we watch TV at home? Look at the conjunction choices. Say or write the correct conjunction for each sentence or question. For example,
She doesn't like spiders, mice, or snakes.
she doesn't like spiders, mice, or snakes. Now you try. The students really like their teacher, but they don't like their tiny classroom. She enjoys buying presents and giving them to other people. Do you want cereal or pancakes for breakfast?
Shh.
Our teacher told us to finish the exam quickly and quietly. He graduated at the top of his class, so he could get any job he wanted. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. So, like you can see here, there are different sentences with different conjunctions. When you have a list of things, you can use or, to continue the list of things. Or if you have options, you use or. And if you have two contrasting sentences, you can use but. In this case, we learned how to use when previously because when interrupts something. I was jogging when I saw a cat. I ate breakfast, but I didn't have a sandwich. I like books or movies. So you get different types of sentences with different types of conjunctions. I want you guys to always keep practicing and reading and identifying conjunctions and using them as often as you can to help you to speak with confidence and to make all these fun sentences that we just learned. Also, it can be used for contrasting sentences as well. You can have two different sentences and you put them into one. I don't like cereal, but I enjoy cereal bars is one example, so you get lots of other sentences as well. Let us have a look at adverbs as well. Let's see if we can learn a bit more about adverbs. We've learned about conjunctions. Now let's learn about adverbs. Hold on a second. Let me get a video so that we can see that. Okay, let's see.
Parts of speech for kids. What is an adverb? By Teaching Without Frills. Parts of speech are different types of words we use when we speak and write. There are 8 main parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. So, what's an adverb? An adverb is a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Adverbs often help answer the questions how, when, where, and to what extent. Let's look at some of the different types of adverbs and learn how we use them. Many adverbs describe verbs by telling how an action happens, like quickly running, peacefully sleeping, or talking loudly. Do you notice something about these 3 adverbs? Oh yeah, they all end in ly. Quick, peaceful, and loud are all adjectives that can describe nouns. But when we want to describe a verb, we often add an ly on the end to create an adverb. Can you think of some other adverbs that end in ly? Adverbs can also describe when or how often something happens. These are words like now, then, tomorrow, always, never, and sometimes. We can use these words to describe verbs or adjectives, like walking now or always happy. Can you think of any other adverbs that describe when or how often something happens? Adverbs can also answer the question where. Words such as inside, outside, here, there, up, and down can be used as adverbs to tell where something happens, like look up or come here. Can you think of any other adverbs that can describe where something happens? Finally, we can use adverbs to answer to what extent. These are adverbs like barely, almost, very, and extremely. These adverbs can describe verbs like almost crying, or they can modify adjectives like extremely hot, or they can even describe other adverbs like very quickly. Can you think of some other adverbs that might answer the question to what extent? Now let's see if you can find the adverbs in the following sentence. Yesterday, we very carefully planted pretty flowers outside. Here's a hint. There are 4 adverbs in this sentence. Pause here to think, or keep watching to hear the answer. Yesterday is an adverb that tells when we planted the flowers. Carefully describes how we planted the flowers. Very describes to what extent we were careful. And outside describes where we planted the flowers. The word pretty is not an adverb.
It's an adjective because it describes a noun, flowers. So how can you use adverbs in your own writing? Listen to this boring sentence. The dog wagged his tail and jumped. How can you add some adverbs to this sentence to make it more detailed and interesting? Pause here to think, or keep watching for some ideas. There are many ways you could add adverbs to this sentence. You might say the dog happily wagged his tail and jumped up and down. Or maybe the dog always wagged his tail and jumped excitedly. So remember, adverbs are words we use to describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They help answer questions like how, when, where, and to what extent. You can use adverbs to make sentences more detailed and interesting. Check out the other videos in this series to learn more about different parts of speech. If you're a teacher,
That's exciting. So you saw how adverbs were formed. So you can also make your own examples of that. And let us try the crossword puzzle and see if we can find any conjunctions. We just learned about adverbs and parts of speech as well as conjunctions at the beginning. So let's see if we can still remember what it's about. Hold on a second. Let me go get it. Conjunctions. Okay, so the word search here, these are quite big words. Consequently, furthermore, although, before, after, so, meanwhile, unless, since, as, therefore, however, while, but, or, otherwise, because, until, and. Get into groups and tell me if you can find any of the words. Furthermore is across here. And what else can we find? Let's look for the other words if we can find any more. It's a bit tricky, isn't it? Therefore is this side as well. What else can we see? Come, get in your groups and let's see if we can find them. It's tricky. Meanwhile is here. Where can we find more words? Can anyone else see another word? Maybe I'm missing something? It is a bit tricky, but I'm sure we'll get the hang of it. I'm still searching. Before is here. What else can we find? It's quite challenging. Any of you have any other ideas what it could possibly be? Tricky. However is here. Good. Consequently is here. Great. Can we find any other words? It takes a bit of time, isn't it? But don't feel angry. You'll get the hang of it. It can be tricky. All right. If you can find any more, please do let me know. But I'm proud of you for finding some of the words. I want you guys to carry on with this in a while. I want you also to think of what other words could you find? If you find more words, please do let me know. We already found some of them. It is tricky, but it's a mind game that takes time and practice. Okay, so now you'll continue with this a bit later. Let us now look at some more examples on collocations. And before we do that, I just want you guys to get in your two groups and tell me, how do you use the conjunctions when? You guys can create your own sentences, each with the words when. Oh, yes, Sam, yes, tell me, what do you think? Yes. Okay, so you can use the word I jumped when I saw a frog. That's a good sentence there. And you can each make your own different sentences. Do you guys understand collocations? Collocations is a bit tricky. Let me send you a video so that you can refresh your mind. And also, because you guys are in pairs of two, I want you guys to get together and tell me, like in a shop situation, one will be the shopkeeper, one will be the customer, and you both say what you want to buy. So it will be a rainy, sunny day when Jim went to the shop and bought a bag of chips. So the word when is now at the beginning of the sentence. So you can try many sentences. You guys can try more examples in this situation. Aha, alright, yes, that's a good idea, thank you. You can use it in that instance, like you can use when I paid the cashier when I didn't have my credit card. That's a good example as well. So I'm going to just show you a small video of collocations and I hope you enjoy it. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can find one. Yes, let's see. Ignore the advert. Sorry.
I knew I was underwater. I just didn't realize I was this underwater.
Hello everyone, this is Mr. P. On today's lesson, we're going to take a look at collocations. Yes, like take care, or quite agree, or badly damage. Do a report. Take a shower. Do homework. Get angry, and keep a secret. So first question, what is a collocation? It is a sequence of words that go together more often than would be expected by chance. In other words, two or more words that often go together. Like watch TV, listen to music. These combinations just sound right to native English speakers who use them all the time. On the other hand, other combinations may be unnatural and just sound wrong. So let's take a look at natural and unnatural. What does it mean? Well, we have natural English and unnatural English. So the fast train, we say, that's natural. If you said the quick train, that's unnatural, and that's wrong. Fast food, not quick food. Or a quick shower, not a fast shower. A quick meal, not a fast meal. So patterns. There are 7 different patterns of collocations. So the number 1, adverb plus adjective. Number 2, adjective plus noun. Number 3, noun plus noun. Number 4, noun plus verb. Number 5, verb plus noun. Number 6, verb plus expression with preposition. And number 7, adverb plus verb. So let's take a look at them more closely. So the first one, adverb plus adjective. Yes, we say completely satisfied, not downright satisfied. Even though downright is a synonym of completely, we just say completely satisfied. We cannot say downright satisfied. It doesn't sound natural. Another example. We entered a richly decorated room. Richly is the adverb, decorated is the adjective. They were happily married for 2 years. Again, happily is the adverb, married is the adjective. Let's take a look at the other group. Adjective plus noun. The doctor ordered him to take regular exercise. So regular is the adjective and the noun is exercise. The Titanic sank on its maiden voyage. Maiden is the adjective, voyage is the noun. The key issue here is that we're wasting time. Key is the adjective and the noun is issue. Wasting time is also a collocation here. Next group. Noun plus noun. Let's give Mr. Jones a round of applause. The ceasefire agreement came into effect at 11 a.m. I'd like to buy 2 bars of soap, please. So bars of soap. Noun plus verb. She startled when she heard the dog barking. Rain was falling as the plane took off. The hen laid some eggs last week. So the orange, they are the nouns, and the brown are verbs. Took off here is also a phrasal verb. Verb plus noun. He had intended to take a holiday in Canada. So take a holiday. He always tries to do his homework in the morning. To do your homework. He needs to get a job soon. Get a job. And verb plus expression with preposition. We had to return home because we had run out of money. Run out is a phrasal verb, a verb, and then of money is the expression here with a preposition. At first, her eyes filled with horror, and then she burst into tears.
Okay, so you have now seen examples of prepositions, of collocations, as it has a variety of mixture of different parts of speech, which you can keep practicing and keep learning with time. It won't always be straightforward, but I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. There are so many different sentences with collocations, conjunctions, prepositions, which is like under, over. There's so many different sentences, but the main thing is you need to know how to identify it to be able to see what is a conjunction, and you need to be able to know when to use it and how to use it. And this all comes with practice and time, and also see if you get the opportunity to speak to your friend next to you, like you are in groups at the moment. Each one of you talk to each other and see if you can make a long story. Like Jim went to the shop and bought a bag of rice for his family and his kids, and they work together. You can keep practicing and try the crossword, try the worksheet, keep doing it over and over again until you get it right. If you don't understand a question or you aren't familiar with anything, please feel free to email me or message me or let me know if there's anything that you're struggling with. I am here to help and I'm ready to guide you through any of the stuff that you need to learn, and I'm sure you'll get it right. I believe in you. You guys are all smart children that are ready to learn and are going to know how to use English nicely. You guys are all lovely kids, and I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you for this fun and exciting lesson. Can't wait to see you till next time. Bye. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much.